Lloyd Vance's Insider Football is back for another week here on 1029 The Game and the Coast Sports Digital Network. So glad everybody could be with us this evening. Kevin, just when you think you know, you don't know. You think you know the league and what's going on, and you and I make our predictions. A lot of times I think we make them too early, but what is going on around the NFL? I mean, it's crazy. And I'll start with the Carolina Panthers. They go to Green Bay, mind you, and win this game 16-13. The Packers were the number one seeds. Everybody's like, all right. We finally know who they are. They're getting it together. A 13 and a half point favorite. Carolina wins it 16-13. How you doing, man?
I tell you what, the league, there is so much parity. It's like back in the days, even go as far back as the late 90s, you knew who the teams were. You had maybe four or five teams that could win. They were going to be in the championship games. That's it. It's not designed like that anymore. And the NFL doesn't want it to be that way because they want these other markets to, keep watching and paying attention and spending their dollars. Two things I pull out of this game with Carolina, they're scrappy, aren't they? They're a little scrappy bunch. They don't have the biggest talent in the world, but they might even get blown out a game. But they come back the next week and they try, and that's good coaching right there. That team just keeps plugging away. Green Bay, on the other hand, and we've seen it now year after year. It seems like they put up a great week and then they have the letdown game. They can't string it together. They can't hook back-to-back games up, and that falls on Jordan Love again as well.
Yeah, and that's a situation where we thought we knew them. They had a great comeback against the Steelers on the road, and it's like, okay, they're starting to build some things. We're at the way point of the season, and it's like, okay, Green Bay is going to distinguish themselves, but it just showed that other than that big win over Detroit week one, we don't know who these guys are. They're just so inconsistent. Jacobs is a little banged up. Their offensive line's a little banged up. Unfortunately, they lost their tight end Kraft after a game of his life. He gets hurt. He has an ACL. They wheel him off. So everything kind of changes in 1 week. So as you were saying, it's a week to week league. And I guess we'll get to learn more as we move on in the season. It's the halfway point. There's 18 weeks, 17 games, and we just finished week 9. We have one more game left. I want to get your take on that before kickoff. Arizona Cardinals, 2-5. They're at the Dallas Cowboys, 3-4-1. Dallas holding on by a thread. Last week we talked about it, averaging 31 points offense, but allowing 31 points on defense. Is Dallas going to win this game? They come in as a 2.5 point favorite in this one.
Well, Lloyd, I'll put it to you this way. Growing up a lifelong Philadelphia Eagles fan, I've learned to get quite the disdain for the Dallas Cowboys. That being said, I need Javonte Williams to have the game of his life. I need him to have that week one Eagles game for my fantasy selfish purposes. I need 17 points out of that man. He's projected at 16 and change. We all know projections don't mean squat in a PPR league, too. So I need Javonte Williams to go off. That being said, Dallas wins this game. I
Yeah,
think Arizona, and you know my thoughts on Arizona. It's not just the Kyler Murray thing. I don't think they're good, and it's going to come down to it. Dallas can outscore them.
correct. And you know, Gannon was already on a hot seat, and they just Kyler Murray's not playing, and it's like, all right, Murray's been there 7 years, and they have a new GM, Osenfort there with the Cardinals. It's just a mess, and Jacoby Brissett's going to play, and it was interesting. There was a quote that came out today. Marvin Harrison Sr. talking about his son's team. He's like, "This offense stinks." I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said there. Can Gannon save his job? What are you thinking with these Cardinals, or is this a situation where he's not even going to make it to week 17, 18?
If he finishes the season, I'd be surprised. It'd be one of those. He finishes the season just, as long as the team's not turning on each other like they are in Cincinnati. You don't have one of those situations. They might let him just finish out the season, but yeah, that's the max he's going to get out of this team this year because he doesn't have the talent or the coaching capabilities on that field to make them go any further.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you that the Cardinal situation is a mess. It's going to probably be a teardown. And this is a Dallas Cowboys special. You know how they are. They love a weaker team. They love putting up big points on them in the Jerry Dome. They like putting up their 40 burger. Dak empty calories. Dak's numbers look very good, but as usual, I just think it when it matters most, he comes up short. So yeah, I think Javonte Williams may get his points for you. My younger son is looking for CeeDee Lamb to have a big game. I think for those guys, it's going to be a big game. And for the other side, the Cardinals, they're leaning on Xavier Bam Knight tonight. That's who they're really looking for. They have a lot of injuries. It's just been a long season, about to get longer for them. So, yeah, we both kind of agree that the Dallas Cowboys in that same division, though, they didn't play this week. It's a bye week, and I wanted to see what Philly Kevin does during a bye week. Do you not watch football? Are you one of those guys? My team's not playing. I'm not watching. I think I know, but what do you think?
Now I'm watching football, but the thing I always find interesting is when, like, I work in an establishment on Sundays where we don't have the NFL ticket. We don't have anything like that. So you get the Eagles Ravens games, kind of thing. So with the Ravens playing on Thursday, the Eagles off on this past Sunday, what games are they going to show? Like, everyone was getting the Bills in Kansas City at late night. I'm like, they're going to give me the Steelers in here. I know, because it's got to be somewhere close to you. They filter it in. So I got the Steelers Colts game, and out of nowhere, I got the Vikings game against the Lions. So I was like, all right, I'll take that. So that was at least decent.
Yeah, that's always interesting in the area where you are when they start showing the Steelers because the Mid Atlantic area they do not like the Steelers and people get heated and speaking of this time of year and leaders and I think somebody that even though the Eagles didn't play, I think they won this week. To be honest with you, they were sitting at home. As we said, the Green Bay Packers lost. Um, they moved up ahead of them, and then the Eagles went about their business. Howie Roseman, Trader Howie, he's really been on the march in terms of bringing in some new talent for the Eagles. They trade for Jalen Phillips coming over from the Miami Dolphins. He has 3 sacks right now. He's on the last year of his contract, but an angular defensive end. They bring him in for a third-round pick. Is this a good situation?
I think it's one they had to do. They are not getting any pressure on the quarterback at all. I want to say that they're somewhere around 24th, 25th in sacks in the league. And anything you can do to help that pass rush, when you're bringing Brandon Graham off the streets back to play, defensive end, you've got some problems on your line. So the fact you gave up a third round draft pick, when you have a team that's ready to win now, what is that third round draft pick going to do to you down? That's going to be something on the back end. In no way a third round draft pick's coming in next year and swinging your team. You need to do what you can to try to win this year with the talent that you have. And I think it was a great call by Howie.
Yeah, I, yeah, I think he's going to be able to come in there and the big thing is that they get him in there in terms of helping them right away and acclimating to the system. You always hear from like the Bryce Huffs of the world. Well, I couldn't understand their scheme, but the good thing is Phillips is he already knows Fangio's system from already playing with him with the Dolphins. Now, Kevin, are they going to be able to re-sign him? You think that's a big thing because they're bringing him in. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the season.
I tell you what, it's a double-edged sword. You bring this guy in, you're sacrificing the third round draft pick. You get nothing out of him. It's like, all right, you can re-sign him, or if you even just get a little bit out of him, it's like, all right, we can maybe re-sign him, get him on the cheap a little bit. If he goes off, there's no way you're going to be able to re-sign him. That's a thing. But once again, your team's probably going to benefit from it. So, they're just playing the short game right here. They're trying to get the most they can to get back to the big game, and that's what they had to do.
Yeah, and I think with Zadarius Smith retiring out of nowhere, they had to find something. They're hoping that Nolan Smith can come back from that elbow injury. I talked to a couple guys. They said that he's moving closer to being back, so they'll get him back. Kevin just talked about Brandon Graham coming out of retirement. We'll see. They're going to have to get pressure from a variety of places. The other area of Eagles need, and they've been trying to fix this area too with trades. I wanted to get Kevin's view on that Trader Howie. He goes to the Jets. He gets Michael Carter the second, uh, a cornerback. He's more of a slot guy for a seventh round pick to the Eagles, and John Mechie and a sixth. So they did that one. And then there was one other one. I can't remember the other guy. There's
Oh,
one other.
Alexander from Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So take them in order, and then you and I will talk about Jair Alexander, even if he thinks he has left. So Carter, do we think the Eagles are going to get anything from him?
Well, if anything, the rumor mill was correct. The Eagles did trade a wide receiver before the deadline. It just wasn't the one that everyone was talking about, A.J. Brown. They trade Mechie, and Mechie wasn't doing anything for
Cup of
him. So,
coffee.
yeah, it's like sit there, roll the dice, see if you can get anything. That was the first move. So it's like, all right, at least we got somebody in here. And then Howie went to work again.
Yeah, and now we talked about some of the other ones, but Jair Alexander. Now, I right away I was like, "Oh, big name," and then I was like, "You know what? Been deactivated like every week for the Baltimore Ravens." And I'm always of the mind, and I like to say, if they're giving them away for basically nothing, there's a reason. You know what I mean? Because no team's trying to help somebody else. Hey, Baltimore, maybe they can get a late round steal, and then the Eagles can kind of get Jair Alexander and help them out. But right away, I texted one of my buddies. I was like, the new James Bradbury. You know what I mean? He's a name. He'll be on the roster. But how much is Jair Alexander really going to be able to help the Eagles?
Well, if one thing we know for sure, he's rested. Anytime you see the healthy scratch, it's just like there's something up with this guy. Why he's a healthy scratch, especially somebody who has been a talent in the league in the past. And for Baltimore, a team that's been suffering injuries, for him not to play, something was up there. But change of environment as well goes a long way. It regenerates, I should say, the battery, gets him maybe going, gets him into a system also, or a team that's just won. He's going to, come in and do what he has to do to get on the field. One could hope. But is it worth the deal that he made? Yeah. It's like you're going for the high ceiling on this one, and if not, you already know what you have.
Right. And in bringing Carter in, uh, Cooper DeJean, and this has been a debate you and I talked about since he's been drafted. Some people are trying to sell. All right, well, Carter's a slot guy. You can put him there and then move DeJean to the outside. Is that something they really want to do? And is that why they're saying, okay, Jair Alexander, former guy that was so good on the outside, maybe he can help out?
I think they're doing everything in their power not to do it. I think once he goes over there, that's all we can do now. You know, it's like they're sitting there, they're trying to, because we talked about on the show the previous couple of weeks, and it's a fact. You moved DeJean over to the outside. Now you've weakened yourself in the middle, and now you've put someone who's not used to playing on the outside out there as well. So, I mean, if it doesn't work out with Alexander, I think in the Eagles push comes to shove, they're going to eventually have to put him out there for this season.
Yeah, I agree with you. And they're going to see what DeJean can do. But as you were saying, he's almost like a hybrid safety, hybrid linebacker. Fangio moves him around the formation a lot. You see what Baltimore's doing with Hamilton, and that is the ultimate goal that you'd like to see in terms of Cooper DeJean. So, yeah, that's going to be a debate. And the thing is, Howie's making a lot of these big trades and moving things around. And, you know, you have to watch Phillips has came off of ACL and Achilles. That's something that's got to be watched. But in terms of Howie, and I went back, I said, all right, let me look at how big of a deal are his midseason trades that he's done. And Kevin, there's some low lights in here. Kevin Byard for Terrell Edmonds and a fifth rounder. That was only a couple of years ago. You know how Byard worked out.
Right.
That was not a good deal. Another one of my favorites. This one was from 2018. One of your favorite guys, Golden Tate. Remember, all he did was catch that fourth down pass against the Bears, and other than that, he didn't do anything. But the Eagles traded for him in 2018. Did do you think that was any big deal?
It
How'd that
was
work
the
out?
it was
How
probably
grade
the
that trade? Grade that trade.
It was probably the second best one that Howie did. So, I mean, they got once again, they got the touchdown, and that was the week after they lost to the Saints after that one, I believe. And he either had a drop or a penalty, something in that game. So
Yes.
he took away all his goodwill from the week before. So no, that yeah, no, that's a. I'll give it a D plus C minus just for the one TD.
And then Darius Slay, fifth rounder in 2020, he was traded for him. Now, I think they got some good pieces out of that, but he may have overstayed his welcome, especially when he was like, "I'm big play," and he's on Twitter blocking people and fighting with people over that, and then I think his wife got involved as well. So he's actually still in the league with the Steelers, but big play Slay in 2020, was that worth it?
It was worth Jennifer Slay coming to Philadelphia. So yeah, now there's. It's always one of those things with a cornerback, man. It's like you're up there, you're a top cornerback, and then the very next year, just like that, you lose that step, but you still have the swagger to try to back it up. And it's like once you lose that step, that's it.
Yeah, Kevin, you're so true. And it's funny because I remember Namdi Asamoah. You remember him? And he came over, really nice guy. He came over. I used to talk to him in his locker all the time, and real engaging. Smart dude. He's actually in movies now and stuff. Producing. Um, but he was done when the Eagles got him. I mean, he wasn't covering anybody. And I remember at training camp, I was like, "Ooh, he does not look good out there." And I talked to a couple of other beat guys that are there every day, every practice, and we're like, "Yeah, it hasn't been good. It hasn't been good." And you could just see, as you said, once these guys lose a step, it's just you're just never the same. Maybe like a Ronnie Lott, Rod Woodson, they transition over to safety because corner is just so tough, and you got to have that top end speed. So yeah, I agree with you there. Um, Robert Quinn in 2022. Robert Quinn traded from Chicago. This may be one of the worst ones. I mean, it was for a fourth round pick, Kevin. I mean, and he did absolutely nothing. I mean, Robert Quinn. You know, that was a borderline Sam Bradford. I better wear a mask to the teller window type deal.
I just remember the whole Philadelphia fan base thought they got such a steal when they got Quinn. It's like they got Javon Curse, the freak number two. It was just like, nah, that guy's done too. He's just cashing checks.
Yeah, yeah. So it was just a little fun to look into history and seeing these trades. I know a lot of people are like say, Howie he has done a great job over the years of building the Eagles into a perennial team that'll challenge for a Super Bowl championship. Kevin's known me for a lot of years. He knows I used to kill Howie in terms of his drafting and what is he doing, but lately, you just cannot question his record, and we'll see if these trades work out. As I said, Phillips has had some leg issues in the past, but I think he's somebody that can come in there and help them. But they're looking for anything in terms of this defense because this defense has been a problem, Kevin, in terms of stopping people and getting pressure on the quarterback. Last year, everyone knows they were number one, but it's just not the same. So we're here talking Week 9, the NFL trade deadline, and previewing Week 10 here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. I'm joined by my buddy Kevin Midgette as my co-host. Yeah, so it's a trade deadline tomorrow. Your buddy Jerry Jones, he was like, "Oh, he was on his radio show. I made a trade, but I'm not going to tell you." Like, seriously, I mean, why do you have to do this? We know what he wants. He wants Hendrickson from the Bengals. He's not getting him. So, do you think anything's going to happen before 4 o'clock? Anything left? Or, I think something may happen, but it's going to be a minor deal.
I think it's pretty minor deal stuff. I don't see anybody, especially like we've talked about already tonight. There's nobody running away with anything, and a lot of these teams that are say 3-4, 4-4, 4-3. It's like they're still in it. Nobody's run away from anything. So why are you going to give up a big piece unless you're getting compensation in return? And everyone's trying to buy on the cheap right now. All these general managers and owners, they don't want to give up any value for what they're getting. So yeah, I think there'll be some minor deals. I don't know if there'll be anything big or not.
Yeah, I agree with you. And a big thing, Kevin, now this time of year and trading, not trading, it is injuries, unfortunately. And talk a little bit about how that Kraft injury affected Green Bay. Unfortunately, it's an ACL. I think he's not going to be able to come back. How is the Packers going to move on from this situation?
Well, as per usual, they have their 5 to 6 wide receivers they don't know who to throw the ball to, so there's gonna be some more
Yeah,
opportunities
don't
there.
play him in your fantasy lineup.
No. I mean, that's a shame for Kraft because he was really starting to break out. He was good last year, and he was really turning into that guy. And for him to go down, especially someone who is as erratic as Jordan Love is, he lost his safety blanket right there. That was someone he was starting to rely on. So now Jordan Love's got to figure it all out again too. So I mean, it's gonna test Green Bay definitely.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think it's something they're going to have to figure out, and maybe lean on their running backs a little bit more. And I think Musgrave's their backup tight end. He's more of a nine script guy, but yeah, as Kevin said, they have so many receivers, but it seems like all they do is target Dobbs. you know, There's so many passes to Dobbs, and they're all about for 6 yards. So, and then you have Christian Watson. I picked him up from my bench. And he'll get deep, and then he'll pull a hamstring, and then they won't throw him the ball to him again. So yeah, Green Bay is just an interesting team. You're like, what? Who are they? So Lafleur, we know he has that panache, and his resume is nice, but there's a lot they got to clean up there. Another injury that happened, and I was wondering if you saw this hit. C.J. Stroud just got wrecked. I mean, he got drilled. He has a concussion. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to come back and play this week. He's in a protocol. The Texans are 3-5. Nate was like, "Oh, Davis Mills looks pretty good. He looks better than Stroud."
It's because he needs a quarterback, Lloyd. That's why he's saying it.
I was like, "Come on, man!" I was like, "That's a bit much." I know you got Nico Collins, but man, come
Yeah.
on, that's a bit much. So, Stroud, do you think he's gonna be able to come back from this? And where do the Texans go from here?
The Texans defense has been helping them out a lot, that's for sure. So, and Stroud, once again, it seems like I don't want to say he's hit his ceiling because he's shown this year a little more than the year before that there's still some room for growth there. But in this day and age, man, you got to keep him out till he's right. How many times have we seen guys rush back before? So, I mean, they got to just tread cautiously with him.
Yeah, I agree with you. You don't want another Tua situation where he gets his bell rung and then it's on TV and everybody sees it. So yeah, be precautious. All right, talking about precautious and the biggest story of this weekend. I couldn't wait to talk to Kevin about this. Should Dan Quinn be fired? I mean, I was on a show earlier in the DC area today, and the host was like, "Are you kidding me? Leaving Jane Daniels out there to score 38-7. You're leaving your, almost he's a rookie of the year and a MVP candidate. You're leaving him out there to get killed, and he dislocates his elbow. So talk about that injury, Kevin, and where does Washington go from here?
Should Quinn be fired? Yeah. I mean, the thing is, especially with that franchise, we have seen it before. What Shanahan did to RG3, that Shanahan ruined that guy's career. You can't tell me differently because he was never the same. He's out there limping, and Shanahan was still calling running plays for him. Now Quinn comes out and says, "Well, we were trying to make calls where Jaden wouldn't run, but it's Jaden Daniels. That's what he's going to do, man. You need the grown-ups in the room to be like, all right, for your benefit, we're going to take you out of this game." There was under 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, down by 31, and you still had him in the game. That's it's carelessness. And the fact that you would do that, and we all know how hard it is to get a franchise quarterback. The fact that you got your franchise quarterback knocked out for the year, that falls on him.
Yes, and Adam Peters, the general manager, Joshua Harris, the owner, maybe they needed to get involved and say, yo, Cliff Kingsbury, uh, Dan Quinn, get this guy out of there. What are you doing? He'd already coming back from he had his knee banged up and he had an ankle injury earlier in the year. And they left him out there in harm's way, and unfortunately he got hurt. That was an ugly injury, and,
Yeah.
and and hopefully he comes back from it. And the Washington, unfortunately, I think their season it was on life support. I think that it's over. I think they've had four straight losses, and the Eagles have such a lead on him. Should they shut down if Jane Daniels miraculously comes back? Should they shut him down anyway? Should I? If it was my guy, I wouldn't have him play. It's his second year, as you said, Kevin. You don't want a situation like RG3 where he's hurt for the rest of his career and he just does not have that explosiveness.
Yeah, I think that if I'm have any say in the Washington, organization, he doesn't step on the field again this year. There's no reason for it unless Mariota rips off 4 wins in a row, 5 wins in a row, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and it's crazy. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, everybody is scratching their head, wondering what's going on there. One of the other biggest stories, Kevin, in is around that D.C. metro area, but it's in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson is back. I mean, he was incredible. His first game back from a hamstring injury, 18 of 23, 78%, 204 yards passing. But more importantly, Kevin, 4 touchdowns. I mean, he was getting the ball out of his hands. I was like, oh, man, I wish I had Mark Andrews in this game in terms of a receiving tight end. But Lamar Jackson looked very good. Derrick Henry running downhill, 9 rushes for 119. Are the Ravens back in this thing? And should the Steelers be afraid?
Yeah, they're definitely in this thing because we talked about before the schedule that Baltimore has coming up. These are all winnable games. I mean, Baltimore can go on a nice little 4 or 5 game winning streak right now with all the ducks they have lined up for them, and no one is Pittsburgh's not running away from anybody. So they're going to be there to be caught at the end, especially if they have the games with Pittsburgh coming up. That being said, Baltimore during the regular season, we've all seen it before. They can win games. Lamar can hang numbers. It's postseason Baltimore that's going to be the telltale for Harbaugh this year.
Yes, and Lamar Jackson, 3-5 in the playoffs. He's got to get it done. But good start for them. Rebounded the season. Remember, they started 1-5. I think there's only been like one other team that's done it since like 1980, from 1-5 to the playoffs. So maybe they can get it done. As Kevin said, the Steelers aren't running away with that division. They're 3-5, but they have not played. Baltimore and them play twice. So the schedule, Kevin, here it is. Baltimore is at Minnesota, at Cleveland. They have the Jets, Cincinnati. They have Pittsburgh in Week 14, at Cincinnati, New England, at Green Bay, at Pittsburgh to end the season. So you sweep those 2 games against the Steelers and win some of these easier tasks, like Cleveland and the Jets. Yeah, I think Baltimore has a good chance to get back in the mix, and what a story would be. So I think the Ravens, they're in the mix. Another injury I want to tell you about: Puka Nakua. What's going on with Puka Nakua? He has rib injury. He looked like the offensive player of the year. I tend to think that the way McVay uses receivers, they get hit a lot. So is Puka Nakua going to be able to come back from this, or what's going on with him?
I think he'll be able to come back from it. Yeah, it's Devonte Adams is starting to feast in his place though. Devonte Adams is one of those guys I thought was kind of washed, but he's finding the end zone now. I mean, it's just the wear and tear of the season, and yeah, you're definitely leaving him out there in harm's way. I think a little bit, but there will be as good as Matt Stafford takes him.
Yeah, yeah, and as we look at, I always like doing this, Kevin, looking at the playoff picture if the playoffs started today. So in the AFC, the Colts are 7-2. They have key victories over Denver and the Chargers. Where do we see the Colts? Are they for real? Are they a fraud? I mean, we can actually talk about the X's and O's of the game and how it worked out. But what are you looking at in terms of them? They lost to the Steelers. The game was in Pittsburgh, but they were a 3.5 point favorite going in there.
I think the Colts are the feel good story of the NFL season halfway through. The team nobody expected to do what they're doing. But I also think a lot of people, including myself, have one foot out in believing in him because of the Daniel Jones factor. The fact is that smoke and mirrors how he's doing all this stuff. Or is there going to be, things on film and tape that they can catch on, and he's going to, turn into the old Daniel Jones in the second half of the season?
Yeah, well,
But
Kevin. Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, well, you're kind of right because this week, you know, he scored 24 points in fantasy wise, but he threw the ball like 45 times or more, and then he had 5 turnovers. So There he is. All my New York, New Jersey Giants fans are like, there's the guy we remember. And you're right. It was like, okay, when's that other shoe going to drop? Is he going to be like Sam Darnold last season, winning 14 games, and then he goes to playoffs and he's awful? So is he going to be able to rebound from it? The other big thing, Kevin, was they really bottled up Jonathan Taylor in this game. He had 14 rushing attempts. He only scored 7.7 fantasy wise. And the Steelers defense did a good job running the zone. They put a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones, Watt, Highsmith, and Hayward.
Also, one thing you have to realize too, because we've seen it in previous seasons, it happens to other teams. Teams start ripping off wins, and one team shows the blueprint on how to beat somebody. And this Pittsburgh might have done that. They might have showed, oh, this is what you do. Oh, you bottle this up and do that. I mean, anyone could say, oh yeah, just stop Taylor and make Daniel Jones throw. But the way in which they did it, the way they attacked their offense with their defense, that's going to be something if Indianapolis can come back from and how they adapt to it.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kevin, because you're right. A lot of people always say, like Tampa Bay a couple of years ago, oh, they broke the Eagles. They knew exactly what to do, and then it turned out they played them in the playoffs, and they did the same exact thing over again. So yeah, and you're seeing it now with Kansas City. We'll get to them, but what the Eagles did to them in the Super Bowl, everybody was looking at that tape, and that's what the NFL is about this time of year. It's all about adjustments. Obviously, you have the regular tenets of protecting the football, running the football, and playing good defense, but you got to the good coaches make adjustments, whether it's at halftime or week to week, and we'll see. Steichen was a guy I had him on a hot seat entering the season, but he's done a great job, and that defense has been nice, and you're right, everything is going right, but now let's see off script how this season plays out for the Colts. Um, they have Atlanta, another very inconsistent team. I actually picked the Patriots in that game because I knew Atlanta, even though Micah Penix was playing in that game, that they weren't going to do well in that game. So that the Colts have Atlanta. That's over in Germany. So you're going to be up at 9 o'clock watching that one.
I love starting the day off gambling by 9:30 in the morning on
Is-
on the Lord's Day. Yeah, nothing like saying I'm sorry as soon as you wake up in the morning. Yeah, I'm in, man. I'm in for it. I love the European games.
Yeah, it's an NFL Sunday. I love it. Like you said, you start your day off and there it is, and then that game usually lasts just long enough to take in at 1 o'clock, and you're just rolling. So, and the fun thing is, I have Bijan Robinson in that game, so I'll be all over watching that thing. The thing is, Atlanta, they're a mess, in terms of the way they've been playing. Let's look at them, Kevin, in terms of the games. Where is that one on my sheet? Uh, they lost to the New England Patriots in this one. A dominant effort by the Patriots, particularly Drake May, and it's really coming along for New England. Um, they win they win 24-23. I think the Falcons got a lot of stuff late. It was a seventh straight win for the Patriots. The Patriots already won three more games than in 2024. So start with the Falcons first. Are they going to find that consistency, or what's going on with them?
I think this is a transition year for him. Penix actually, I mean, he hung some numbers late to make his stats look good, but he's a guy basically playing his first year. He's considered, in my mind, he's a first time starting rookie quarterback for the season. He played a little bit last year, but this is his first time running the show. So the offense is still trying to figure out, Bijan, Drake London, trying to make everyone happy with that. So I think this is one of those. I mean, if Atlanta can sneak into the playoffs, it'd be great for them, but I don't think that should be expected from them either.
Yeah, and it'd be a good story if they could get there, but they're just so inconsistent. It's crazy. They could beat, they beat the brakes off of Buffalo, but then they'll turn around and have a no show, kind of like what they did for most of this game in New England. And as Kevin said, they got a lot of empty calorie points late in this game. Uh, Good thing for Atlanta, no Kirk Cousins. I mean, he's washed. He's everybody's like, is he going to be traded, Lloyd? I said, no, no one's trading for him. He makes $27 million guaranteed. He'll probably be cut. I know. Like, I love that guy. I re-listened to the show last week, Kevin. And I love when you were like, he must go to the teller window with a mask or something like that. What was it?
And wearing a ski mask to pick up his check or cash his check. Yeah.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, nice guy, but yeah, he's he's done, and then Penix, we'll see what he does. Drake London had a mini comeback this week. He had a pretty good game, but they're going to need a lot of Bijan. But in terms of the other side of this, the New England Patriots, right now they are the number 2 seed in the AFC. If the playoffs started today, they own a quality win over the Buffalo Bills, and let's face it, they seem for real to me. They seem for real, and they have the lead in Buffalo, and they have the tiebreaker against them. I know they're going to play each other in Week 15, but can New England hang on to win the AFC East?
They're I tell you what, I knew they'd be better this year. Just with Vrabel being there, Drake May getting another year under his belt. And we talked about, I think, last week. Drake May in the next couple of years, he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's close to it right now. Let alone give him another year or two, and you give him another substantial weapon to throw to out there. He's legit. So yeah, New England winning the division. I mean, we're just used to Buffalo. Buffalo should do it. They're new, but why not? They've got the young guys. They're believing in it right now, and they've already beaten them one time already.
Yeah, they had a big Sunday night football win. Buffalo's 6-2, so they're kind of breathing behind them. Um, New England has their bye, but they have their bye kind of late week 14. So yeah, they're going to have a chance to keep this thing going. Now they have a big game, New England. At week 10, they are at Tampa Bay. It's like a prove it game to me, and we'll preview that one soon. But it's definitely going to tell us about New England. I thought that Henderson came in there. He did a pretty good job. Um, didn't get as many carries as a fantasy football owner named Lloyd Vance would like, but
Same,
he
same here.
yeah, he did an okay job, and I think he had about 13 points. But you'd like to see more. But yeah, New England, Stephon Diggs is really getting going, Kevin. I mean, he's making a lot of catches. That defense kind of no name, but you have Milton Williams, you have Christian Gonzalez, and they're going to be a dangerous team. So they're looking forward to that game, Week 15 against Buffalo. As I said, Week 16 they're at the Ravens, and then they finish. How about this finish? So if New England's in trouble, their last 2 games should get them right. They're at the Jets, and then they have Miami. Now, speaking of Miami, Kevin, I had to get your opinion on this. Yes, Lamar had a pretty good game last Thursday night, but on the other side of a coin is the Miami Dolphins. They're 2-7. They just lost in their own stadium, 28-6. Did you see all those people leaving? I mean, they were running for excellence. It reminded me of the old days at the vet when me and my buddy used to go watch Steve Jeltz play shortstop for the Phillies, and there was about 8,000 less people in the old vet.
Hmm. I used to love those days, though. You used to buy the cheap seats and just move down. No one else is
Yep.
there. Yep.
They used to leave the door open sometimes. You could just come,
Hmm.
they wanted to look good on TV. But, you know, how did Miami get to this point? And then they ended up the next day. I was like, oh, McDaniel's done. They fired their general manager, Chris Greer, who had been there. He didn't do a horrible job, but Greer's gone. And it seems like I'm hearing McDaniel is going to stay. Is that the right move? And what's going on in Miami? And they talk about Tua a little bit in his situation.
Well, the Miami, I think it does fall on the GM a little bit. You're the guy who did the hirings, you brought the players in. At the same time, Tyreek Hill went crazy, and then he didn't want to play. Then he got hurt, and he was out for the year. And they just had some things go wrong real quick. I mean, you look 2 years ago, Miami was a formidable opponent. I remember them having to go up in Kansas City and playing that icy game out there for the playoffs. Where you could tell Miami didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So to go from that, if you keep McDaniel, I mean, I just want to point up 95 a little bit to the New York Giants when you keep a coach on a dead team. So, I mean, if they want to sit there and let history repeat itself, that's on the Dolphins.
Yeah, I agree with you. And in a situation where Miami is just you can hang your hat on some stuff, but you just can't, And now it seems like Stephen Ross, the owner there, is like, all right, we got McDaniel, and we're going to start making some trades. So, we talked about Phillips going to the Eagles, and they're open for business. So they may make a couple other trades and be sellers at the deadline tomorrow. So interesting for them. But the big thing was Baltimore's defense is starting to get right, Kevin. This is the third straight game where they've held their opponent to 17 points or less. They had Gilman make some plays, Roquan Smith, and how good is Kyle Hamilton? They moved him all over the defensive lineup. Zach Orr used him as a chess piece. So they had 3 turnovers. Baltimore had none in this game.
Baltimore is definitely they see what's in front of them. They see the schedule that's in front of them, and they know this is it. However they play this next month is going to dictate if they're going any deeper into the season. If they sit there and they even break 500 in their next 4 games, I think they're done. They have to go on a string of wins right now, and it began. Miami was like a hurdle. Then it's the next one. Then it's basically knocking a bunch of beer cans over until you get a tough team.
Yeah, and I tend to think they're going to get back in this thing, and they have that look. They're starting to get healthy. They got Ronnie Stanley back on the offensive line, and then their defense. We talked about all the guys they're getting, and they made a trade as well. They bring over Deontay Jones coming over from the Tennessee Titans. Uh, he's a guy who has about 4.5 sacks. Do you know anything about Deontay Jones, or is this going to help out the Raiders? I mean, the Ravens. Excuse me.
I think everyone's just in a spot right now. I mean, you need pass rushers and you need secondary help, and it's just you're just grabbing anyone you can get. It's like to see what if you can get a scratch off ticket, get something out of a player at this point without giving up anything substantial draft pick wise. Everyone's bringing people in. I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And in a situation where the Ravens are just trying to fix that defense, get right. But as Kevin said, it's all about the playoffs with them. Uh, they need some success, and they need to win that division at least to have at least one home game because I tend to think Lamar Jackson and the Ravens on the road they just have problems in terms of the postseason. So they got to get there first, but we'll see how that goes. But that was a good win for them. Another good win out here, and this was your boy, man. Caleb Williams was playing it, Caleb Williams and the Bears, they get the win against Cincinnati Bengals 47-42. Rookie Colston Loveland has the big catch, 58 yards scored for the touchdown with 20 seconds left. Crazy game here. I mean, what should we take from this, Kevin? Is it more about the Bears and is their buddy Caleb Williams finally getting together? Or is this Cincinnati's defense just a mess?
It's Cincinnati's defense. I haven't seen this much of stinky football. Jeez, oh my! You lose the game to the Jets. You get Joe Flacco to hang 470 yards passing,
Crazy.
470 and 4 touchdowns, and you still lose after coming back from a 15-point deficit. So that defense is so bad. You have Chase Brown now calling out his own defense, to the media. That team has turned on each other. It's like they could have won these 2 games, try to tread water for Joe Burrow. Instead, they blow these 2 games. It's all about Cincinnati.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the Bears are on a little streak here, but they're another team. You just can't trust the Bears. I mean, it's nice what Ben Johnson's doing coming in there, but they really haven't beaten anybody. I put down key victories for every team. Their key victory was Dallas in week 3. You know what I mean? They haven't really beaten anybody. They lost to the Ravens. They beat Cincinnati. They have the Giants this week, so they're maybe fatten up on them, but they could lose to them as well. So they're just so inconsistent. We'll see how they do. But that division's very interesting. Yeah, and Williams got his points, and I was talking to my son Braden. He was like, "I need a quarterback next week." He knows I have Mahomes, and he's like, "Why don't you pick up Caleb?" I was like, "There's no way I'm grabbing him because he had a good game this week."
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to have a bad game next week. So it's a situation where he got 38.7 points in fantasy. He had 280 yards passing, 3 TDs. He even rushed the ball for 53, and he caught passes too, including a touchdown. So you know maybe they've unlocked him, but I tend to think no. Okay, it was nice for 1 week, and they got Love involved. That was a big play for him. But the Bears are just so inconsistent, and their defense is bad too. They're almost as bad as the Bengals defense and the Dallas Cowboys defense that we talked about earlier. So it's crazy. The This game we're talking about here in Lloyd Vance is in Side of Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. Thanks for joining us. Monday night, I told everybody, I was like, all right. They're like, look, give me a survivor pool pick. I was like, all right. I said, the Chargers, they looked so good last week. Don't worry about it. Set it, forget it. They're going to the Titans. They're a 9.5 point favorite. Well, this was a tooth and nail game. This was crazy. That and you talk about scrappy. The Titans are a little scrappy sometimes, and I think Mike McCoy's kind of lit a fire underneath them. But the Chargers get it done 27-20. What did you make of this game? Is this the Chargers falling asleep at the wheel and then waking up? But Vidal didn't do anything in this game, and the tight end I picked up, Gatson, he did okay, about 11 points or so, but it wasn't a cakewalk that everybody thought it would be.
I'm seeing a tendency from the Chargers to lose focus depending on who they play. The back-to-back weeks of going to play the Giants and losing, and then having Washington at home, Daniels coming off an injury, and they lost that game. So it's like I see them. They raise their game, I think, when they need to, but I think they don't pick it up that notch when they're, that higher gear when they're playing lesser teams.
Yeah, I agree with you, and we're gonna see about the Chargers, and again we look at, okay, if the playoffs started today, they do have some key victories. They did beat Kansas City week 1, they beat Denver week 3, um, but you talk about that Giants loss. I mean, like, who are they? So they're kind of going through an easy stretch here. They beat Minnesota. They're at Tennessee. Now this week we're going to find out. They host Pittsburgh, but the game is in L.A. and we'll see if Aaron Rodgers, how well he travels, and that defense, they can get after some folks now. I know they've had some injuries on that defense, but they have Henley and Derwin James. We'll see if he plays in this one, but that's a big step for them. The Jacksonville Jaguars, we'll talk about them in a second. They have them, then they have their bye. They have the Raiders, the Eagles in week 14, at Kansas City week 15, at Dallas, Houston, and then at Denver, which could be for all the marbles week 18. So I think we're going to find out a lot more about the Chargers, and the big thing is Herbert. Everybody's always talking about the flow, the hair, and everything. Well, the guy has no playoff wins. You know what I mean? He has all the yards and the stats and everything, but he's got to get it done when it matters most. And that end of season stretch will tell us everything about them. Another team we saw step up was the Niners. They beat the Giants 34-24. Christian McCaffrey's kind of back, and Nate was crowing because that's his guy, Christian McCaffrey. Total 173 total yards. He scored twice, and they had a pretty dominant victory over the Giants. What are we making of the Niners? And it was with Mac Jones too. And Brock Purdy. I hear that turf toe injury is still lingering. Is there a quarterback controversy here? And what do you think of the Niners' victory?
I think Mac Jones is doing a job, isn't he? He's sitting there, he's another guy we wrote off, like we wrote off Sam Darnold a couple years ago. And it was like, all right, these guys are just showing up now. I mean, we did the same thing I know with Geno Smith before he went to, these are guys he was like, all right, I'll never hear from them again. And they come back and, they find a way to win now. I think with these guys, when they first come in the league, they're trying to do everything, be this all pro, and then they get humbled a little bit and they go to a different franchise and they learn how to be a quarterback and what it takes to win games, and not put your team in harm's way with the ball. And Mac Jones is doing that. And I heard the same thing. I heard Purdy's not going to be right all year. So if you do a situation where Purdy goes in and he plays horribly, Mac Jones comes in, can you bring Purdy back?
Yeah, and the Niners, if the playoffs started today, they're battling through. They have a ton of injuries. And they haven't used it as an excuse. They kept playing. They lost Bosa. They lost Fred Warner, their two best defenders. And then offensively, they lost Kittle again this week. Jaron Jennings is banged up. Pearsall, you never know when he's going to play. He's on my bench. Speaking of being selfish, he's on my bench, and I'm like, when is this guy going to play? So we'll see about Pearsall too. But the Niners, uh, they have the Rams. They're a big game coming up. We'll preview that one in a few, but that one could be for, you'll be in a catbird seat in the NFC West in that one. They're at Arizona. They have Carolina, at Cleveland. They have their bye finally. Tennessee, at the Colts. They have the Bears and then Seattle, which could be a big game. So they have a mixture of some tough games, some easy games. But as you said, it's all about Mac Jones. Is he going to be able to hold down the fort? CMC was dominant in this game, and they're going to probably lean on him and see what they can do. Do you think IU comes back for them?
No, I don't. I think Ayuk is at the point where even if he comes back, how much do you really get from the San Francisco 49ers? You talk about their injuries, but their wide receiver core has been hit so bad
Well,
with Pearsall, Jennings, like you said already, and then Ayuk. So, I mean, if they can get Bourne had a big game for him a couple weeks back, too. It's like they're just trying to get somebody out there to catch the ball. So, the fact that they are winning like this, it's impressive.
it is. It is. And speaking of impressive wins here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network, I'm here with Kevin Midgette. Denver Broncos. Should we be impressed by these guys? Who are they? They're 7-2. They beat the Texans 18-15. Now the crazy thing was when I was on BYP or the betting show I'm on with Rich, Houston was a 1.5 point favorite in this one, crazily, and I was like, "Oh, take Denver in the points," and luckily it turned out, but it was closer than I thought. Denver wins 18-15. Will Lutz hits a 34 yarders. Time expires. Another win. I forget. That's like 5 or 6 in a row for them. So Denver, are they for real? What's going on with them? Bo Nix, and it was a win, but it was like they won, but
I don't. I've never been a Sean Payton guy from the New Orleans days, but what he did with that team last year was very impressive. How Bo Nix played last year was very impressive. So what they're doing this season right now with more time together, I'm not surprised actually. I mean, the fact that they're 7-2, all right, maybe a little bit there, but at the same time, that's how teams do. They can win ugly games. In Denver, they find ways to win ugly games, and that's going to pay off for them down the road.
and right now, Denver would be number 3 if the playoffs started today, and they're a tough team because of that defense. We know that defense leads the NFL with like 35 or more sacks, and they can get after anybody. And Surtain did not play in this game. We talked about they knocked C.J. Stroud out earlier in this game, which was a big factor in this one. And when you look at Denver's schedule, it's not bad. The Raiders coming up, then they have the big one with Kansas City in week 11, and then they have their bye finally, and then they're at Washington, who we talked about that Jaden Daniels injury, and they have a bunch of other ones as well. They lost Marshawn Lattimore. They lost Luke McCaffrey. They're starting to fall apart as well. So Washington, their season's on life support. So that may be easier game for them. Then they're at Vegas again. Um, Green Bay week 15. That's going to be interesting for Denver. Jacksonville at Kansas City week 17. The Chargers in week 18. So they have some tough games coming up. I think we'll really find out who they are. But much like Kansas City last year when you and I were talking, we're like, all right, they keep pulling these games out, but what's really going to happen when it matters most? The end of the season, in the championship rounds, and then in the playoffs. So do you think Denver is built for the playoffs, or they're just kind of lucky right now?
Little both. A little both. I think they're playing well in crucial situations, but I mean they're still trying to figure out what they're going to do with Harvey and Dobbins, who's going to get the most carries there, and I think that's a fluid motion right now. And also the wide receiver core, they got to get Sertan back. He's going out another week or two, I believe. So I mean, they got some hiccups along the way, but as long as they keep accumulating these W's, I mean, they'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to think they're going to keep winning, and the way Kansas City is right now with their inconsistency, they got a chance to win that division, and kind of hold off the Chargers, hold off the Chiefs. We'll see how that goes, but they've been doing a nice job. Sean Payton, as you say, he's a little smug. He always has that look on his face,
Mhm.
like bleep you. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So a lot of people make it's kind of tough to root for him, but they're winning. They're 7-2. As I said, I think they've won 6 straight games, and we'll see how it goes from there. The matchup with the Raiders is on Thursday night. The Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy, he gets revenge on his buddy Aiden Hutchinson. This was a surprise one, Kevin. The Vikings go to Detroit and win it 27-24. Detroit was a 7.5 point favorite in this one. Uh, it was surprising as Detroit kind of stumbled coming out of their bye week. They made a lot of mistakes. They were at home. The score looks better at the end because Jared Goff threw a late touchdown to Williamson, but they also had a blocked field goal. Montgomery lost a fumble. They had a drop in the end zone by Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, it was just an ugly game for the Lions. And JJ, let's face it, he was clutch on like third downs on some completions. He ran the football. Is McCarthy real? And what can we take from this victory?
Is McCarthy real? The first one is we don't know. The guy's played a handful of games in the NFL. It's like we don't know, but he looks better than I thought he would. It's like, can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the field? You got to give the Vikings credit. I mean, you're sitting there, you're wheeling out Carson Wentz week after week. Everything they've
Terrible.
been through. They're 4-4. They're 500. They're right there after every, this whole, up and down. Mostly, it seemed like it was down part of the season. So yeah, if I'm Minnesota, I'm a Minnesota fan. I'm optimistic the fact that they're only 4-4.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was a good victory for him, and their defense is really playing well. McCarthy was funny. I don't know. Did you see that post game celebration in the locker room?
Mm-mm.
He looked a little psycho to me. They hand him the game ball, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah," like he's in a frat house
Jeez.
throwing beer all over the place. Good for a kid. He was excited, but good victory for Minnesota, and they got to get their consistency better too. And they did lose Aaron Jones to a shoulder injury in this one. We'll see how they make out, but good win for them. Detroit, another one. I was like, all right, who are they? Um, Detroit, they kind of fell down. They'd be number 7 if the playoffs started today. They're at Washington this week, and then they have the big one at Philadelphia. So we're going to find out in a couple weeks against them, the Eagles, about who's the real contender, who's a pretender there. So um, tough loss for them, but Vikings stepping forward. Next game, I can't talk about this next game without. It was an overtime thriller. Jacksonville Jaguars beat the poor Raiders 30-29. What a game, though, for my guy. My guy finally got him back, man. Brock Bowers, 43.3 fantasy points, 12 receptions on 13 targets, 127, 3 touchdowns. He was, unguardable, but they lost the game in overtime. They went for the win. And of course, Raiders being Raiders, they didn't get it. So, what are we taking away from this one?
I am a fan of the going for the win, though. I get it. It's like, all right, let's wrap it up now. I like it, and at the same time, the Raiders they are what they are. I mean, that's a team right there. They're not going to win 6 games this year. Probably, it'd be a shock if they did. And Jacksonville, they're another one of those middling teams. It's like one week they look good, one week they don't. I mean, they still gave up X amount of points to the Raiders, and the Raiders aren't juggernauts that should be, hanging points like that. So, I mean, I think Jacksonville was the better of the two, and that's not saying much.
Yeah, not by much. And it was an exciting game for the Raiders and Jacksonville. But another big story was Jacksonville's kicker, Cam Little, NFL record 68-yard field goal. I mean, that was just crazy. I mean, he kicked it with 16 seconds left, I think, in the half. And what a kick. Guys our age, we all remember Tom Dempsey, you know what I mean? And the kick,
Uh-huh.
that was always the record. But now you're seeing these guys, and I'm not a kicker guy, but man, these kickers are incredible right now.
They can kick from the parking lot. As soon as they get off the bus, they're in range, I guarantee you there's going to be a 70-yard field goal this year. There will be a 70-yard field goal.
Maybe tonight with Aubrey, you never
It could
know.
be tonight. Could be tonight. Yeah, so it's amazing, these guys. I mean, you don't even have to be on the other side of the 50 now to almost be in range.
Yeah, and as I said, that's a good weapon for them because Lawrence is so inconsistent. He was good this week. Travis Hunter is injured for them. He's going to be out for a little bit. And how about Travis Hunter? I remember when he came into the draft, you and I were talking, and I was like, no one has been able to play both ways in the National Football League without being dinged up or hurt. It's just not college. And Nate said to me, he goes, "Oh, he's built different. He's built different." I was like, "No, there's a reason you don't play both ways. It's barely in high school when they let them do it. You know what I mean? They let them. That's tough enough. But talking about Travis Hunter, do you think he comes back? I think he was playing pretty well at receiver. They should just leave him there. Thomas Jr. has been kind of struggling this season, not getting open as much, and he looked like Hunter looked like he was going to be their lead guy.
I think he'll be back. I think you definitely need to play him one or the other. Make up your mind. Because especially your first year in the NFL, it's hard enough to learn one position, let alone you want to learn two positions and keep throwing him out there. So you're not doing him any services either by, putting him out there on both sides. And he was starting to play better offensively. He played better than I thought he was going to. So if he comes back, I think that's also where they should leave him.
Yeah, yeah, and hopefully he has speedy recovery because they need him. And as I said, Jacksonville in the mix, but they're at the bottom. Kansas City chasing them. They're half a game ahead of the Chiefs. Before we preview Week 10, let's get to a couple marquee games that were out there. All right, this was a heavyweight matchup. Everybody was waiting for it, and it was kind of it was okay. The Buffalo Bills 6-2 now. They had a statement win over the Kansas City Chiefs, who are now 5-4. It was 28-21. Uh, the Bills dominated this game. They were in control the whole time. Josh Allen had 3 touchdowns this game total. He had 2 rushing and 1 passing. He had 73 passing yards. Is this statement win for Buffalo, or is like, all right, you beat them in regular season again. Let's see you do it in playoffs.
I think there's little doubt the fact that Buffalo is a better team than Kansas City. And even mentioning it last week, it's like Buffalo versus Kansas City regular season. Give me Buffalo all day. Now in the postseason, if Buffalo has to play Kansas City, it's not so much Buffalo. The Bills are playing the Chiefs. The Bills are playing themselves in that situation. They have to play with their fear of not being able to win the big game against Kansas City, and that's where they make their mistakes. So yeah, the Bills are the better team right now. They need to get the 1 seed. You have to make Kansas City travel, especially if Denver can win that division out there as well. But Kansas City is definitely not what they used to be. They're still good, but they're just not what they were.
Yeah, I agree with you, and they don't have that invincibility. They're getting old at certain positions. Like even Chris Jones, Bolton on the defense, they're not stopping people the way they were before. And Mahomes did not look good in this game. Typically in fantasy, he gets you about 28.5 points per game. He only got about 15.7 in this one. He didn't throw a touchdown pass. He did get a 2-point conversion late, but it was just like, other than Rasheed Rice, there weren't a lot of playmakers on the offensive side of the ball for the Chiefs, and the Bills were able to move the football. Cook, the 2 tight ends got loose, and it was a good quality win for the Buffalo Bills. But as we were saying earlier, they got to catch the Patriots. So good win for them. They need to keep getting ready for the next one. The nightcapper was the Seattle Seahawks, 34-14 over Washington. Washington got some garbage points late, but we talked about the Jay Daniels injury. But talk about the other side of it, the Seattle Seahawks. JSN got his catches, but Cooper Cup did not play in this one. Darnold threw his 4 touchdown passes, to guys like Torrey Horton, Elijah Arroyo, Cody White. I mean, you're like, who are these guys? So talk about Seattle. Are they for real? Right now, they'd be the 3 seed if the playoffs started. They are leading that very competitive NFC West right now.
Well, first I have to state the fact that the Seattle Seahawks have the sickest throwback uniforms in the NFL. They are the best uniforms, hands down. And I'm a Kelly Green guy, but I love that Seahawks uniform. Also, Sam Darnold now has entered the MVP conversation. Believe it or not, and it hurt to say it, his Vegas odds are now 18-1 to win the MVP.
Oh,
Think
yeah.
about it. He sat there, he threw for 330 yards, 4 touchdowns. He's on a team that's 6-2. I mean, he's in the conversation now with your Baker Mayfield's dropped off. You have your Daniel Jones talk. You have your Drake May talk. Lamar will be back in here if they rattle off some wins. But you got to give, once again, the flowers to Sam Darnold.
Yeah, he played very well, and good Sam showed up. And I always thought he had that potential out of USC, but he just looked so terrible with the Jets. But he's gotten it together, and last season he played so well for the Vikings, got the bag, got the money, and he seems to be a good fit with Seattle. and they were just dominant. It was 28-0 before you blinked, and it was 31-7 at the half. And as I said, the Washington Commanders, they're in trouble. They're 3-6. They're looking like their season on life support. I don't think anybody's going to be fired or anything like that. But if Jane Daniels can't play for a long time, they just kind of need to start anew, get ready for the draft. So interesting game there. We're coming down the stretch here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football on 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Digital Network. All right, Kevin, it's time for our game ball winner and our lackey. My game ball is going to go with piggybacking off the Buffalo Bills win off the Kansas City Chiefs. Joey Bosa, I mean, he was dominant in this game. The Bills defense harassed Patrick Mahomes over and over again. Bosa had 3 tackles, 1 sack. He had 10 pressures. And as a team, they had 3 sacks and 15 pressures of Mahomes. He did not look comfortable. The Chiefs were only 3 of 13 on third downs. That just shows you how dominant the Bills defense was in that 28-21 win.
That's a good one. That's a good one. But I'm going to have to say somebody I mentioned in the show already. 55-year-old Joe Flacco throwing for 470 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Didn't win the game, but yeah.
He didn't win the game, but man, you got to be kidding me. This guy, what he's doing right now,
Incredible.
it really is incredible. And as much as I like to bang on the guy, I was never a Flacco guy, even though we went to University of Delaware right up the road. It's just, good for him, man. And once again, I want to check his papers. I don't believe he's the age he is, but he's really showing out. He's doing all he can to keep them afloat.
Yeah, he's got a bionic arm or something, man. I don't know. Maybe Steve Austin. I know that's an old reference, but man, he looks good out there. And you also have to give an honorable mention to Brock Bowers. I mean, he played very well. Lamar Jackson, CMC. They're some of the stars from this week. They all need to get consideration. Lackey, again, it's a team award almost, but I'll give it to the head coach, Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. You can't lose at home to the Carolina Panthers. I mean, you're a 13.5 point favorite. You talk about Vegas winning their money back. I know people were betting heavy on the Packers in this one. They laid an egg. They had an interception. They had a fumble. Brandon McManus missed a 43-yarder. And then the biggest things are they had 7 penalties in this game, 42 yards, and they allowed 166 yards rushing to the Panthers, particularly Dowdle, who was just running up and down the field on them, and 4.9 yards per carry.
Yeah, that's a good one, definitely. Once again, it is starting to turn into the team award right now. It's got to be Dan Quinn with Washington. It has to be. As much as I want to say the Bengals defense, but I used them last week, so it's like I'm tired of the Bengals right now. We get it; they're horrible, wretched on defense. There's no need to mention them. But Quinn, it's like think about it this way: if you're a head coach, you're going to go as far in this league as your quarterback is going to take you. And if your quarterback is injured, guess what? You're not going to win games. Your job then becomes in jeopardy. So you have to protect him at all costs. If you're down by 31 points with less than 8 minutes to go, get him off the field. Get him off the field for his own safety and for your own job security. So for him not being aware of that, he's definitely my lackey.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. And that's something that's going to be debated. It's being debated all over bar stools and talk radio all over the area, and it's like, what are you thinking? And because Jaden Daniels is the biggest story. He's on the Madden cover, for goodness sakes. You know what I mean? Everybody knows he's the guy, and why put him in jeopardy? But they sure did, and that was a gruesome injury. Hopefully, it comes back. So, Dan Quinn, get it together. I don't think he's going to be let go or anything from all the goodwill from last year. But yeah, that was a bad decision. All right, we're going to start looking ahead to Week 10 here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football. Thursday night, the lines aren't out, but I think Denver is going to be a heavy favorite. You got the Raiders going to Denver. This is another situation where the Raiders have a bad offensive line. I think Denver gets a lot of heat on them, and they capitalize on Geno Smith making mistakes. I think the Broncos win this one, but Brock Bowers will get his catches.
Yeah, I have to lean on the Broncos on this one, and I must admit also I traded Brock Bowers a couple weeks ago because he was injured.
No, you did.
Yeah, yes, I did. So I'm reaping that one right now.
Yeah. As we said, over in Berlin, the Atlanta Falcons up and down team. They need a win, but they're facing the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are now 7-2. They come in there limping after their loss to Pittsburgh. I just don't think the Falcons' defense is good enough to slow down the Colts the way that the Steelers did. So I think Jonathan Taylor runs up and down the field in this one. You'll see Daniel Jones protect the football a lot better and get the ball to Pittman and Downs. So I'll go with the Colts in this one.
I'll take the Colts in this game, but it's going to be a weird game. Anytime you go overseas, you don't know. We've talked about before. You don't know how teams are going to travel, how they're going to be ready to be prepared to play at that time with the time change and everything. And also Atlanta, you don't know what you're getting every week. So I look for a game that's going to be competitive till the end.
Yeah, I do too. And it's also don't get to the hotel or on a flight and forget that you have a game. That's what I always
Right.
say. Some of those guys enjoy themselves too much. It's a business trip. So I think the Colts will be ready. They want to get that bad taste out of their mouth. We're going to kind of jump around here in Lloyd Vance football, finishing up. The Buffalo Bills are at the Miami Dolphins. Is this a letdown game? I mean, the Dolphins are very wounded. They're trading players. They just got rid of their GM. Are the Bills going to be focused and take care of business here?
Yeah, I think they will, and I think it has more to do with Miami is just waving the white flag left and right. They're letting players walk. They're going to probably make more moves before Tuesday deadline, and I think Buffalo, just on pure talent alone, will have enough to beat them.
All right. This is a marquee game. At the 1 o'clock slot, you got the New England Patriots at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers are coming off a bye. They need to get healthy. Obviously, we know about all their problems at receiver where everybody's banged up. This is a prove it game, but the game's in Tampa, so I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. I think he's going to have just enough to win this one. McLaughlin's kicking the football very well for them. Maybe a game winner by him. So I'll say the Buccaneers win this one. Close game, though.
Much like last week, I thought Pittsburgh would give Indianapolis problems because you can only play so well for so long in this league. You know, a loss is coming at some point. And I think that's what's going to happen with New England this week playing against Tampa, especially Tampa coming off a bye. So I look for Tampa to win this game as well. They're due for a hiccup in New England.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting because the Patriots aren't on a heater. Uh, the Rams at the Niners. Now, the NFC West, you throw them in, and, this team could be that team, didn't want to beat that one at home. Last time it was a fumble at the goal line that kind of turned things around for the Rams. I'm going to say the Rams get revenge. I say they're going to win this one. Now, Puka Nacua injury, that's going to be big. We have to keep an eye on that.
Just to play devil's advocate, because I think you're looking at a coin flip game right there. I think it's another one that's going to come down to the wire. I'll take San Francisco just for the fact I didn't expect them to be playing this well right now anyway with what they have. So why not? Let it keep running.
Nice. All right, and then Monday night, this is a big one. This is a proven game. The Eagles coming off a bye. They got all these new players. They got to get them acclimated. Jalen Hurts playing extremely well. I think he only has like 3 interceptions or something like that. But they are at the Green Bay Packers. Can they block Micah Parsons, and will the Eagles win this one? I'll let you go first.
As much as I picked against the Eagles last year, remember every week, oh, this is where they lose. Oh, this is where they lose. I'm going to go this week, statement game by the Eagles. Come out and take care of business in Green Bay, proving once again that Green Bay can't get any consistency wrapped together. Eagles coming off a bye, I take for a win.
Yeah, Kevin, I agree with you. I think that Saquon Barkley comes back from the groin injury. That's going to set the tone. I think he's going to be able to run the football. The offensive line's going to have, I think, Dickerson and Jurgens back, so that will help. If all those guys up front are healthy, I think they're going to be able to run the ball and control it. And then defensively, you're going to see Phillips and maybe Nolan Smith and a bunch of those guys get the pressure on Jordan Love. And we know he makes mistakes when he's pressured. So I'm going to go with the Eagles and a win there. All right, another great week here on Lloyd Vance Insider Football 1029 The Game, Coast Sports Network. Appreciate Kevin joining me. We went through all the slate. We'll keep everybody abreast what's going on at the trade deadline tomorrow. I appreciate Duncan behind the glass doing a great job. And we will talk to you next week.